And today's number is... Hi everyone, welcome back to Talk and Chalk. If you're one of my regular followers, welcome. If you're someone who's brand new here, also welcome to you too. I'm Beck, I'm an assistant principal in Southwest Sydney, and this is my channel where I just share my tips and anything related to education. I try and share resources. I don't sell or spam anything. This is just me sharing because I hope to help other teachers in their practices, whether they're new teachers, experienced teachers. Hopefully it just helps us all collaborate a little bit better and gain something from each other along the way. Today's topic about today's number can be a bit controversial depending on who you talk to. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people say it's based in nothingness, and other people say, hey, kids are highly engaged in it. So whatever you feel about it, this is what I'm sharing with you guys today because it worked well for me in the class. It worked well in the classes that I used it with. And today I'm going to share that resource with you in the hopes that, hey, maybe it might help you and your kids. So before I get into it, I'm just going to remind everyone that the subscription button is below. I only do one video a week. It's on the weekend. So like I said, I'm not going to hit you with a bunch of notifications or spamming or anything like that. You can tap the notification bell if you actually want that notification that says, hey, a video has been uploaded onto this channel and you might want to watch it. But other than that, if you are watching this in some other form of social media, like if you're watching this on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, you will need to open this up into YouTube. Click on the YouTube link where it says YouTube at the bottom of the video somewhere here. This will open up because in the description below is where I will give you the link to the resources for today's number, as well as my links to social media, Pinterest, Instagram, all those other things as well. So let's get into it today. The today's number activity was something I was always interested in because I like the idea of kids, focusing in on that number and doing different things with that particular number to just be versatile with what they're doing with it. So that particular number can be applied to time or measurement or, variety of different algorithms, regardless of the grade that they're in. And I really liked that idea. But every single template I found out there, so, I tried Teachers Pay Teachers and Google and all those sorts of things. Everything seemed to focus on one page for one number for one day. And, me trying to be environmentally friendly, I want to really condense that. I tried looking at different options. And really the best way to do it was just to create my own template. I didn't need it to look pretty. What I did want to do though was have a week's worth of activities on one page where the kids could continue with those particular types of activities across the week with different numbers. That's what I wanted for my kids because I found that, every time they were adding plus 10 to something, to them it felt like a new process every single time. At least that's how it appeared to me anyway. And it's like, you've done plus 10 before. It doesn't matter if it's starting at 9 or 18 or 23. You're still plussing 10. This is easy. So that was something I wanted to extend on with my kids. So what I did was I created a template that lasted for the week, and it was the same activities for the week, but with a different number. And then what we would do is at the beginning of the session is that when we started, I didn't actually tell them what the number was. We would play a guessing game called What's My Number, which I have another video on, to get the kids to guess what the number was. And this is really, really good because it fills them with all the number facts that go with this particular number before they've even gotten into doing some activities. So I'll talk about the What's My Number part later on and show you an example, but let's actually get into the activity itself of today's number. Now, keeping in mind, you obviously have to differentiate for your kids. This won't work in every class. This just worked for me. And I think part of the reason that the kids were so engaged in it is because I amped it up a lot. Going through school, had a bit of a love-hate relationship with mathematics. And luckily in year 11 and 12, I finished on a high note, loving mathematics. And I think a lot of that came down to the enthusiasm my teacher had for maths at the time. And just the fact that she was able to modify the way that she gave instructions for the kids in the class to a point where, I could understand it really well and enjoy it. And that's what I loved about it when I finished. So I try and make sure that that's what my kids get when I go into mathematics. So one of my favorite parts of my load at the moment is I get to take the extension maths group and do some really fun activities with them and really try and push their what they think are their boundaries, and get them to places where they're working mathematically, create some really cool dialogue in those sessions. So that's the kind of thing I want to focus on. But let's get into this and then I can explain a bit better. So I'm going to flip the camera and actually go to the screen to show you these resources. Okay, so I'm going to give you a link to this Google folder, which will have all these resources for you. So there should be 4 different files in there. Now, each time you go into these, it'll look funny if you open it in Google Docs, because you can see I've made it in Microsoft Word. So when you open, or when you double click on it, I would say ignore this part here that says open with Google Docs. Click on the download button, wait for it to download. It'll pop up in the lower part of your screen. You'll be able to open it up, and then you should be able to go save as and save it as your own file. So I'm just going to open them all up at the moment. So that's one. I'm going to go back to the Google file. This is just a title page that I had for my folder with all the printouts in it, so I won't need to open that one for you. Let's go into the program first. This was a really simple program that I created using Program Builder. If you haven't heard of Program Builder, just Google it. If you're a teacher in the public system, you'll be able to log on using your normal credentials. It's a really easy to use system with some drop down sections with the outcomes and content, and then it gives you spaces to be able to put your own content in there as well. So I've just opened it up now. Here we go. So you can see this is one from stage 2. Now I have used this process with stage 1 right through to stage 3. It's very easy to differentiate and just suit to what your class needs are and what your focus is. So no matter what your scope and sequence is, you can modify this to suit your needs. So you can see here I've got just the summary, the duration, and now I've put here 10 weeks, approximately 20 minutes per day. Now I'm going to come back to this 20 minutes per day, but essentially you can use this as a warm-up activity. You can use it as a rotation station. It's up to you. I'm going to come back to that though to be a bit more specific. A very basic overview. This is the section here, modifications, where I put student names and how I was modifying it. Just some basic questions to determine my evaluation. And then in here, the outcomes. Now this is a term's worth of outcomes. I've just covered everything here, and I know that seems really broad, but when I get to my little scope and sequence of this activity, you'll see how I'm covering that. And then just the content, and then some very basic teaching, learning, and assessment that describes the activity. It's very short, so I'm like, this is only a 20-minute activity, so that is just covering sort of that portion there. Sorry, I should be going to the other part now. So this part here, where it says today's number term 3, I'm going to download this one as a Word document so that you can see how it pops up in Word. And then you should be able to, again, click Save As and put this into your own file. It's just opening up. Just clicking Enable Editing so it looks normal. And this first page here is kind of my overview. So you can see at the top here, I've got activity, and then across here are my weeks for the term, allowing 10 weeks for this, as if we ever actually get to do a full proper 10 weeks. And then you'll see down the side here, these are the different activities that I'm going to cover during today's number. So, for example, spell it means write it in words. So if the number is 27, they're going to write TWENTY space SEVEN, 27. And then a number line, a tens frame. I'm looking at things now. Double it, write an expanded notation, draw it in money, do it in tally marks, do it as a fraction, etc. So these activities don't all happen on each day. You'll see where I've put across, each week. So in week 1, the activities they do here have got a cross next to it. And you'll see that goes throughout the week. So these things here that are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you see that's quite heavy. We do that every single week almost, or definitely addition and subtraction are done every single week. And spelling it is done every single week. And then it just depends on the other focuses that I'm doing in class on what I really want to, emphasize for that task. And then the next page here you'll see is whatever I had crossed up here, I wrote it down just as a reminder for what I was doing. So this is this week we were doing spell it, add 5, add 15, subtract 3, subtract 13. The number before, expanded notation. And then these were the numbers that they did for the week. So on Monday for week 1, they did 33. And then on Tuesday, they did number 86. Then on Wednesday, they would do the number 24. Thursday was the number 60. And on Friday was the number 120. So you can see as the weeks go on, I start to get some patterns going. 36, 66, 26. I wanted that because I wanted them to see the patterns that happen when they always had 6 in the units value. And then same here as I move along when I had 100, 200, see that pattern and then be able to move that onto 350. There's still a 0 in that units value. And then, just for some fun, I do, like week 8, 44, 444, 4,444. Just so kids could start to identify those patterns when they're working with these numbers. So then I would do it the same down the bottom here on purpose. So look, if I'm going to jump to week 6, the addition was add 10 and then add 100 and then subtract 10, subtract 100. This was really good when you're working in number lines and things like that, so kids can see those patterns when they're moving above or below that first number that they start with. And then it just goes through like that. So this is what it looks like for me in my program. And this, I'm just moving now to the other sheet. This is what the kids had. So this one page here, that is a week's worth of activities. So once we had played the What's My Number game, the kids would then write the number at the top here. So if the number was 86, they would write the number, 86 at the top here. This is handwritten, obviously. Then they would have space here to spell it. And then this, they would just have to put the answer. That's it. So the kids could have a whiteboard to do their working out if they wanted to. They could turn this bit of paper over and use it as scrap paper. They could have a bit of scrap paper and attach it if they wanted to. No heavy and fast rules on this, whatever they wanted to be able to do it. And then I knew there were always tens frame activities in there. So when I did the tens frame, I know some people like to do them a bit differently. So if the number was 86, I would let them pick where 86 went. So in my mind, the number 80, sorry, not the number 80. You could start here if you wanted to and do 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. Or they could pick that 86 was sitting here. Sorry, I'm just going to delete these ones so you can see what it looks like. And then 85 might be up here and 87 would be here, 88, yada yada, so on and so forth. All they had to do was complete the numbers in whatever order they wanted to. This was year 3 though, so we were moving. I was trying to help them work in things like off the decade and not always seeing it where it was on those charts that we had. So, as long as they had the numbers in order, that was fine. And then 50% of it and a number sentence, as in putting that number into their own number sentence. And then it says here questions. And this is my open-ended portion. So for my kids who could get through that stuff, and you could see these activities would get a little bit harder as it went down the page. The last part here was questions in the grid book. So if the number was 86, they would have to go to their maths grid book and put the number 86 at the top. And then they would have to write as many questions that they could think of where the answer was 86. So it could have been 87 take away 1, 85 plus 1. But, that's really trying to push them into other things like, getting into multiplication and division and using 2-step problems if they wanted to. And they could just go for as long as they wanted and see how many questions they would get. And they would try and push themselves, from day to day to day to say, oh, I got 2 more than yesterday. I got 3 more than yesterday. And the even better part about that is if those kids are super fast or, you're stuck with something and get interrupted and you can't, quite get to the kids to finish it, you just get them to swap with a partner and answer each other's questions and check if they're actually correct. So what you'll see in this document though is that is week 1, then we've got week 2, then we've got week 3, week 4. And if you look down the side, these activities here should match my little overview that I had typed up here. And now this is all editable. So if you do not want the kids to do a decimal point or a fraction or a percentage, you want them to do something different, come in, type it in, put your X wherever you want it to go. If you want them to do it in this week, put your X there. Or my capital, I think, is what I use. That's what you put there. And then down here, you would have to modify it down here. And if you wanted to change it, you just edit it there. And then you can edit the worksheet as well for whatever activity it is you want to do. So this is 10 weeks worth of sheets in here that I used with stage 2. I think that covers those bits. Let me just double check. Yes, I went through all of those. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera back now. So like I said in the beginning, different people take these things different ways, but I like the way that I set it up for myself because I found it was easy to edit. I could change it from year to year depending on the kids that I had. I could change it from stage to stage. The program builder format is just a great way to go to be able to use those things, and I found it beneficial. So what I'm going to do now really quickly is show you how it worked when I got the kids to guess what the number was by playing the What's My Number game. So I'm just going to flip around again so I can show you what I used to write up on the whiteboard when we would do this. Okay, so when we did the whole What's My Number thing specifically for today's number, let's say the number was, I'm going to keep going with 86 at the moment. So I'm just going to get my drawing function out here. And let's pick a nice bright blue. So I would say to the kids, okay, kids, I have the number in my head now. Ask me your questions. And it would pretty much be like the yes and no game, yes or no. So someone would say to me, is it off the decade? And I have my tick and my cross over here. So under my tick, I would say, yes, it is off the decade. That is, oh my gosh, insanely. It's really hard for me to write on this pen upright with the mic and everything. So let's just keep going. And so the kids would then, another child would say, oh, does it have a 7 in any of the numerals or in any of the values? And I would say, no, there's no numeral 7. So no 7s in it whatsoever. Then one of the kids might say, oh, is it 3 digits? So I'd say, no, it is not 3 digits. And then another kid would go, oh, is it 2 digits? So I could say, yes, it is 2 digits. And then there's always that one kid that says, is it on the decade? And then all the kids go, no, look, it already says off the decade. But that is an indication to me that that student doesn't necessarily know what I mean by off the decade, and that on the decade is linked to that. Or they might just not be paying attention. So I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to write it down. They've asked the question. I'm going to say, no, it is not on the decade. So I'm going to acknowledge that and make sure I write it down, because chances are there's another kid in the room somewhere that was thinking the exact same thing and doesn't get it. And then they keep going through and through. Someone would say something like, is it a double digit? Like 88, the same 2 digits. So I would say, no, it is not a double digit. Double digit. And continuing through, lots and lots of different things. And just this really is a great way to build up their vocab, that mathematical thinking, all the different options that they have. And then eventually someone would say, is it 80? They'd start getting numbers at this point. So my rule at the beginning was, no, you cannot just come up and go, hey, is it 14? Hey, is it 15? Hey, is it 16? No, not accepting that. You've got to actually go with proper tangible things that are going to help us narrow this window down. And eventually, someone, they'd narrow it down, that someone might say, is it between 80 and 90? Yes, it is between 80 and 90. And then eventually say, is it 86? And I say, yay, it's 86. And it's really good to see how long or short it takes them depending on the clues they come up with. Okay, so you can see that that's really easy to do. So the big thing is when you're actually running today's number is how you want to do it. So like I said, you could use it as a warm-up activity. You could use it as a whole class activity to get things going. What I found was after I'd done it for a few weeks, I could use it as a rotation in maths groups. But it takes some time to get the kids trained up in terms of the expectations of doing those activities. And I never set an expectation that they always had to complete everything. That was never my expectation. My expectation is always personal best. You do what works for you, and you don't have to do it in order. If you find something too hard, skip it, go to the next one. Not a problem. It's up to you if you want them to work in peers. It's up to you how you want to set it up in your classroom. But hopefully those templates help you. Hopefully you enjoy those activities. I hope your kids enjoy those activities. If you've got a different version of today's number that you use with your class and you'd like to share it with everyone, please pop it in the comments below and how it works. Share this with your colleagues. If you liked this and you think you might give today's number a go, give the video a thumbs up. The feedback is always appreciated, but for today, I'm going to leave it there. So my button is down here. If you haven't subscribed yet, you just hover over that, click to subscribe. Like I said before, I only do one video a week, so I don't spam or sell you anything, but I'll leave one of my other videos at the top there in case you haven't seen them. Thanks, guys. Bye.